You ever stare at your phone, knowing you don't even care what's on the screen, but you still scroll, still swipe, still tap, like something important is about to happen, even though it never does? That's not addiction, that's escape. And escape feels easier than honesty. Because what happens when you stop scrolling? Silence, stillness, and then the weight comes in. The heaviness you've been avoiding all day, the things you haven't said, the dreams you've put off, the truth you've buried beneath reels, memes, and half-hearted likes. You're not weak. You're overstimulated, and no one taught you how to sit in the quiet without falling apart. But here's what they won't tell you. The real danger of your phone isn't the time it steals, it's the self it hides, the version of you that only shows up when the noise dies down, and you finally have to feel something. We think we're addicted to content, but we're really afraid of what contentment would force us to confront, because contentment is quiet. And in quiet, you hear your regrets breathing again. You hear your lack of discipline, your loneliness, the fact that you don't really know what you're doing with your life right now. Not really, not deeply. So we scroll, we refresh, we loop through apps like lost pilgrims in a digital desert, praying to the gods of distraction to save us from ourselves. But what if this isn't the whole story? What if your addiction isn't just a bad habit? What if it's a shield, a defense against a truth you're not ready to face? And what if the Stoics, men who lived 2,000 years ago without screens, alerts, or endless feeds, already knew this was coming? Because the disease isn't digital, it's spiritual. It's the soul's slow starvation beneath a pile of notifications and dopamine crumbs. But you can feel it, can't you? That deep exhaustion, that strange sadness after an hour on your phone, that ache in your chest that says, this isn't life, this isn't real, this isn't you. So now we begin, not with shame, not with blame, but with truth. You're not addicted to your phone. You're running from yourself? And the Stoics? They're about to show you how to stop. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, but even he wrote to himself, nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul. He didn't have Wi-Fi, but he knew the temptation of distraction, the craving to be anywhere but here, to flee from the battlefield inside your own mind. You think the war is on your screen, but the real war is in your attention, in your inability to be fully with yourself without reaching for something to numb the moment. The Stoics had no apps, no pings, no blue light burn behind their eyelids. But they had restlessness. They had the human condition, the constant itch to escape the now, to drift into fantasy, to lose themselves in noise because silence is too loud. And that hasn't changed. Only the tools have. Only now your battlefield fits in your pocket, and it vibrates every time you start to feel something real. Epictetus said, no man is free who is not master of himself. But how can you be a master when every 5 seconds you surrender? Not to a general, but to a screen, to an algorithm, to a curated version of reality that numbs your spirit and leaves your will soft. The Stoics taught that freedom isn't found in the removal of pain. It's found in the ability to remain still inside it, to sit with discomfort and not flinch, to feel the fire of longing, failure, emptiness, and not run. But modern life tells you the opposite. It says, escape now, process later. It says, swipe to feel better, scroll to disappear. And you've done it. We all have, but here's what matters. You're here now. Not everyone makes it this far, so listen carefully. If you're still here, that says something about you, about what you're seeking, about the part of you that's tired of running and ready to. Remember, the world doesn't want you focused. Focused people are dangerous. Focused people don't buy what they don't need. They don't numb what they need to feel. They don't settle for passive consumption when they were built for purpose. And that's why this matters, because the moment you reclaim your attention, you reclaim your life. But the question is, are you willing to sit in the fire long enough to remember who you were before the noise? You ever notice how everything in your life is built to save time, but you still feel like you're running out of it? Faster phones, instant food, one-tap everything. And yet, you're more exhausted, more anxious, more behind. Convenience was sold as freedom, but you feel more trapped than ever because every shortcut you take robs you of the strength that struggle was supposed to build. You were never meant to feel good all the time. You were meant to feel real, to feel the edges of your own resistance and rise through it. But instead, you scroll when you should sit, you click when you should climb, you consume when you should confront, and what happens? You lose presence, you lose clarity, you lose the muscle of your mind, and you don't even notice it slipping away because comfort doesn't scream, it whispers, until one day you wake up and realize you've become soft in the places where you used to be sharp. Seneca once warned, slavery resides beneath the surface of luxury. And now you know what he meant. Because the screen in your hand, the one that gives you endless access to entertainment, distraction, connection, has also quietly built a cage, a beautiful, glowing, dopamine-fueled cage. And here's the twist. You walked into it willingly. You chose it every time you said, just 5 more minutes. I'll stop after this one. I need a break. But what you really needed was pain, stillness, awareness, discipline, the things that don't come in a box, the things you don't download, the things you earn by facing the moment instead of fleeing from it. You're not just paying with your time, you're paying with your soul, because every time you reach for your phone to escape boredom, you reject the very state that breeds creativity, insight, peace, power. Discomfort was meant to guide you, but now you mute it, ignore it, numb it, and the cost? You stop growing, you stop becoming, you stop hearing the voice of who you could be, because the static is too loud. So here's a question. What has convenience cost you? Not in minutes, but in meaning. And are you willing to keep paying that price? Stillness isn't silence. Stillness is strength. The kind of strength that doesn't shake when the world gets loud. That doesn't scroll when the day feels empty. That doesn't beg for noise when the truth starts whispering. But let's be real. Most people today are terrified of stillness because stillness is exposure. It strips away the distractions, the false urgency, the filtered noise, and leaves you with what's real. And sometimes what's real hurts. That's why we run. Not because the world is too loud, but because we've forgotten how to be quiet with ourselves. Marcus Aurelius. He journaled not because it was trendy, but because it was war, a war to stay rooted, present, unmoved. In a world of chaos, he called his soul a citadel, an unshakable place within, a place no enemy could storm unless he opened the gates himself. And what are you doing every time you wake up and open your phone before you even breathe? You're swinging the gates wide open, letting the noise in, letting the world program your peace before you've even had the chance to claim it. Stillness isn't weakness. Stillness is preparation. It's where clarity sharpens, where power takes shape, where your soul recalibrates to what matters before you lose yourself in what doesn't. But stillness is hard because it's not entertaining, it's not fast, it doesn't flash or buzz or trend. It waits, quietly, patiently, for the few who are strong enough to return to it. So the question isn't, can you sit in silence? The question is, can you stand in the truth that shows up when you do? Because the Stoics knew, if you can't face the quiet, you can't face yourself. And if you can't face yourself, you'll never be free. You're not here by accident. You could have clicked away, but you didn't. That means something. Don't just let this moment pass. Return to it. Subscribe. Not for me, but for you, to keep hearing the voice that doesn't flatter, doesn't lie, and doesn't run. Stillness isn't just a break from noise. It's a return to truth, to presence, to power. And when the world gets louder, you'll either anchor deeper or get swept away again. Which one do you want? There's a moment every day, usually quiet, usually invisible, where you have to choose discipline or distraction, purpose or escape, truth or comfort. And most days, you don't even notice when you choose distraction because it looks so innocent, so small. Just 5 minutes here, just one video, just one scroll. But 5 minutes of escape repeated every day becomes a life that's never really lived. And that's the part they don't tell you. Distraction doesn't feel dangerous until it's already taken everything. Your goals, your clarity, your presence, your peace, all drained by 1,000 digital cuts until you're left wondering why you can't feel alive anymore. But discipline doesn't take. It gives you self-respect. It gives you direction. It gives you that quiet, unshakable feeling that says, I am in control, even if the world is not. The Stoics weren't disciplined because it looked good. They were disciplined because they understood one truth. Freedom is the child of discipline, not the absence of it. You want freedom from anxiety? Practice presence. You want freedom from chaos? Practice order. You want freedom from regret? Practice restraint. But restraint isn't sexy. It doesn't go viral. It doesn't make you feel instantly good. It makes you feel uncomfortable, exposed, hungry, exactly how growth is supposed to feel. Because here's the hard truth. You will suffer either way. You will suffer the pain of discipline or the pain of decay, and only one of them gives you your soul back. You know the difference. You felt it. The way your mind clears after choosing the hard thing. The way your chest lifts after following through. The way your eyes shift from dull and foggy to sharp and alive. That's not just biology. That's you remembering who the hell you are. So next time you reach for your phone out of boredom or sadness or fear, ask yourself, am I feeding a habit or am I feeding my soul? Because only one will lead you where you're meant to go. There's a moment, maybe you felt it, where everything slows down, your breath deepens, your thoughts quiet, and for a second, you're just here. Not chasing, not avoiding, not performing, just being. That's presence, and it's rare now. So rare that when it shows up, you don't even recognize it, because your brain's been rewired to crave what's next, to dread the pause, to measure time not by meaning, but by motion. We confuse busy with alive, stimulated with fulfilled. But deep down you know, most of your days aren't full. They're just full of noise, and noise doesn't nourish. It numbs. That's why presence feels so foreign, because it's not just the absence of distraction, it's the presence of you. The parts of you that haven't spoken in a while, because they've been buried under timelines, tabs, and to-dos. But listen, presence is not about slowing down for the sake of aesthetics. It's about remembering what it feels like to be fully in control of your mind, fully awake inside your own life. No autopilot, no anxious flickers, no dopamine leash dragging you from one stimulus to the next. Epictetus said, "Only the educated are free." And he didn't mean college. He meant self-awareness. He meant understanding your internal landscape so clearly that nothing external owns you. Not a screen, not a trend, not a headline, not a craving. And how do you build that level of power? By coming back, again and again, to the present moment, even when it's uncomfortable, even when your hand twitches for the phone, even when your mind begs for escape. You stay, you breathe, you witness, and in that witnessing, you reclaim something sacred: agency, autonomy, awareness. Because here's what the modern world doesn't want you to know. A person who can stay present cannot be controlled, cannot be sold to, cannot be manipulated by the chaos of culture. That's the kind of presence the Stoics cultivated, not just peaceful, but unshakable. If you're still here, it's not by accident. This is the quiet part of the video. The part most people won't reach. But maybe you're not most people. Maybe you're one of the few learning to sit in stillness and find your edge. If this feels like truth, subscribe. Not for me, but for you, for the moments you forget and need a reminder. Presence is not a skill, it's a decision, made every moment, every breath, and every time you make it. You become less reactive, less distracted, less lost, more you. You think it's about your phone, but it's not. It's about what you're afraid to feel when you put it down. There's a war inside you, and the screen is just the shield, a flimsy, glowing shield you hold up against emotions too sharp to touch. Boredom, loneliness, self-doubt, the feeling that you're falling behind, that you're not who you said you'd be by now. You think you're just taking a break, but really, you're negotiating with your fears, and the screen keeps winning every time you check for messages that aren't coming. Every time you scroll past lives that look better than yours, every time you numb a decision with distraction. You're not escaping the world, you're surrendering to it. But the Stoics, they saw this inner battle long before blue light ever touched a pupil. They knew the real enemy isn't out there, it's in here, in the way you respond to discomfort, to uncertainty, to silence. Seneca wrote, "The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow and loses today." And isn't that what distraction is? A way to avoid today, to float in the limbo between regret and anticipation. Never fully here, never fully alive. You've been in 100 rooms, but barely present in one. Heard 1,000 voices, but haven't really listened to your own in years. That's not life. That's digital sleepwalking. And here's the part you don't want to hear. This isn't just about your habits. It's about your identity. Because every time you choose distraction, you teach yourself that you're not capable of facing life directly. And your mind listens. It rewires itself around avoidance. Until even the smallest challenge feels unbearable. Until silence feels like suffocation. But here's the truth. The battle isn't to never be distracted. The battle is to notice when you are, and return. Return to presence. Return to awareness. Return to yourself. Not once, but again and again and again. Because each return is a rep, and every rep builds strength. The kind of strength the Stoics revered. Not flashy, not loud, but unbreakable. You want to win this battle? You won't do it with willpower alone. You'll do it with awareness, with structure, with stillness that's earned, not given. So the next time the urge hits, to reach, to scroll, to flee, don't. Breathe instead, sit in the fire, and watch how fast it burns away everything you don't need, leaving only what's real. Distraction thrives in chaos, but discipline? Discipline is born in ritual. The Stoics weren't just thinkers. They were tacticians. They didn't just reflect. They trained. They practiced detachment the same way a soldier sharpens his blade. Not once, but daily. So if you want to win back your mind, you don't need a detox. You need a strategy. Let's start with this. Create sacred space, not in a temple, but in your schedule, your environment, your intention. 1 hour a day without the screen, no distractions, no scrolling. Just you and the silence you keep trying to outrun. Use that hour to reconnect, to read, to write, to think, to walk slowly without a destination, to breathe and feel what you've buried. Marcus Aurelius said, "People look for retreats for themselves. In the country, by the sea, in the mountains." You have it in your power to retire into yourself whenever you choose. So build that retreat, every day, brick by brick, not with granite, but with presence. Second, interrogate the impulse. Every time your hand reaches for the phone, pause, ask, what am I avoiding? Because you're always avoiding something, even if it's just boredom. And boredom is often the door to creativity, to clarity, to courage. That question, simple as it is, turns unconscious escape into conscious awareness, and that alone weakens the grip. Third, replace. Don't just remove. You don't just break habits. You replace them with rituals that sharpen your edge, still your nerves, reclaim your attention. Journaling in the morning, reading philosophy before bed, cold showers to confront resistance, long walks with no headphones, eye contact with strangers, stretching discomfort into discipline. These are not hacks. They are homing signals, calling you back to yourself. Because Stoicism was never about escaping the world. It was about facing it, fully, without sedation, without shortcuts. And the moment you begin to feel again, to notice the wind, to taste your coffee, to be where your feet are, you'll realize how much of your life you've been missing, and how deeply alive you can become. This is your return, not to some ideal version of you, but to the grounded, centered, fully present man you were always meant to be. The modern world wants you distracted, not because it's evil, but because it's profitable. An unfocused man is an easy target for ads, for agendas, for everything but purpose. You think scrolling is harmless, but what if I told you? Distraction is the new addiction, and digital sedation is the new slavery. You're not lazy, you're looped, caught in a cycle designed to keep you numb enough to follow, but not clear enough to lead. And every time you break away, every time you choose boredom over blue light, every time you hear your thoughts instead of muting them, you are committing rebellion, a quiet, invisible, daily revolution. The Stoics didn't fight with swords, they fought with stillness. They walked through chaos and chose not to flinch. They were present in a world that begged them to drift. So here's your war. Every time you reach for your phone, you reach for your freedom. Every click is a contract. Every scroll is a surrender, unless you say no, not loudly, not with drama, but with decision, a silent, powerful refusal to be owned, to be programmed, to be pulled away from your own life. Because the truth is, you were never meant to consume this much. You were meant to create, to feel the sun on your face, to wrestle with ideas, to speak with conviction, to walk with presence. And deep down, you know this. You can feel it in your gut, that quiet ache that says, "This isn't how I was meant to live." So let this be your moment, not of guilt, but of clarity. You don't have to delete everything. Just start by choosing one sacred hour, one screenless moment, one breath of stillness, one honest conversation with yourself. That's how warriors are made, not in noise, but in silence, not in escape, but in endurance. And if you're still here, still listening, still feeling, then you're ready to live awake, to feel again, to become dangerous in your discipline and unshakable in your stillness. Let's seal this into your bloodstream, not as content, but as commandments. 1. Digital overload is not harmless. It's a slow erosion of soul, of clarity, of command. When you always escape discomfort, you forget how to endure, you forget how to grow, you forget you were built to carry more than dopamine and distraction. 2. The Stoics didn't have screens, but they battled the same enemy: distraction, temptation, comfort, sedation. They chose the hard path, the one with silence, with boredom, with reflection, because that's where power lives. You live in a world that hands you every excuse not to be present, but presence is your weapon, your rebellion, your way home. 3. The detox isn't about phones. It's about focus. It's about taking your mind back from everything that feeds on your inattention. Your potential isn't buried under weakness. It's buried under notifications. 4. Stillness is not laziness. It's resistance training. It's the gym where discipline is built in silence, in slowness, in solitude. Every walk without your phone is a step toward clarity. Every time you choose to sit in discomfort without reaching for a screen, you are remembering how to lead yourself. 5. You don't need to escape the modern world. You need to navigate it like a Stoic warrior. Calm, focused, unmoved by noise, unshaken by the urge to react. You were made to stand still in storms, not scroll through them. Now, take a breath, and remember, this isn't a one-time reset. It's a ritual of return, a daily decision to come back to yourself again and again until presence becomes your resting state. And in that stillness, you'll rediscover your edge, not the fake one screens offer, but the real one, the kind that can cut through confusion, excuses, weakness. That's the man you're becoming, not louder, not faster, just clearer. You are not broken. You are buried beneath apps, alerts, addictions dressed up as habits. But beneath that, stillness, strength, sanity. The Stoics weren't superhuman. They just chose presence over panic, principle over impulse, depth over dopamine. And so can you. You don't need to delete everything. You just need to decide that your mind is sacred, that your peace is priceless, that no algorithm deserves your soul. Because this isn't just about screen time. This is about lifetime. Where your focus goes, your future grows. So if you've spent years running from boredom, from stillness, from yourself, it's time to stop, not to judge, but to see, to breathe, to return to the power you had. When you were still, when you could read your own thoughts without flinching, when you weren't addicted to motion just to avoid meaning. Because here's the truth, you will never outrun your inner world, no matter how fast your fingers scroll. Eventually, the noise fades, and you're left with the only person you'll never escape, you. So ask yourself, are you someone you're proud to sit with? To hear from? To face in silence? Because that's where the work begins, in the silence you've been avoiding, in the breath between distractions, in the brutal beauty of full awareness. You don't need a guru. You don't need a hack. You need the courage to sit in your own silence and the discipline to stay there long enough to hear yourself again. Because most people don't detox, they distract, they numb, they call it balance, but it's just avoidance in a prettier outfit. But not you. You didn't come this far to stay enslaved to convenience. You came to wake up, to stand still when the world spins, to reclaim the one thing everyone trades too cheaply: their attention. And if you felt something in this video, a spark, a stirring, a quiet anger at what you've let slip, then don't let it pass like another reel. Act on it. Subscribe, not just to this channel, but to a way of life that cuts through the chaos, that sharpens you, that strengthens you, that strips away noise until only clarity remains. Because this channel isn't here to entertain you. It's here to arm you with ancient truth in modern warfare, with philosophy you can bleed into your routine, with reminders that your peace isn't found, it's forged. So join us, not because we're louder, but because we're quieter. And in that stillness, we become unshakable. Now breathe, because we're about to enter the last part, the final moment, the echo loop, where everything comes full circle and your decision becomes your direction. Ready for it? You've scrolled a million times, but this one, let it be the last unconscious scroll, because now you see it, don't you? It wasn't the phone, it was the fleeing from stillness, from self, from responsibility for your mind. But now you've stopped, and in the stillness, you found strength. You realized your phone isn't your prison, your habits are, your escape routines, your refusal to be here now. But all that changes today if you choose to delete one app, to sit in 1 minute of silence, to pause before the next reflex tap. You don't need to go offline forever. You just need to go within more often, because when the world gets louder, the still man becomes a giant. So if this resonated, if you felt exposed, convicted, awakened, let it show. Comment below. Tell me one thing you're taking back control of. Like this video, so the algorithm shares the antidote. And share this with one person who needs to stop running. Because we don't just talk Stoicism here. We live it, we breathe it, we become it. And every still mind added to this circle makes the noise just a little weaker. Now, go and carry your stillness like armor, because the world will try to shake you. But you are unshakable.